Hello, welcome. My name is Jo, and today we are going to talk about things that people say in bad reviews that make me think I would probably like the book. So I don't think I really came up with this idea. I know that I have at least heard Drinking by My Shelf talk about this before, that if someone says that a book is boring, she immediately is interested in reading it. So I just thought it would be interesting to talk about things that we see in bad reviews that make us interested in the book. And so I asked on my Instagram, and then I would love if people would talk about it in the comments if you are interested. So we will go through the ones that I got on Instagram. There were several agreeing opinions about the whole boring or nothing happens, slow, that sort of thing, and I agree with that. It depends on the book. I do think that some books do end up being boring to me, but if I see a review that says, oh, nothing happened in this book, it was so boring, and the other aspects of the book appeal to me in some way, then there's a very good chance that I will like it. Many of my top books of all time have been accused a lot of being boring or slow. I think pretentious is somewhat similar. A lot of times there's a very fine line between being pretentious and being profound, and so I can see where that line would get crossed very easily. This one is interesting when someone says that the characters overthink everything. That could be very, very relatable as well. And then creeping into the just problematic reviews category, we have racist against white people, and anytime a white reviewer says they couldn't connect to a main character of color. I think both of those definitely say more about the reviewer than they do about the book. Those would be green flags for me as well for the books. So the list that I have is partially kind of green flags for books and partially things that I feel totally neutral about. So we will do the neutral ones first. I think I actually have more of those, but these are things that people say as if it's like a, condemnation of the book that I just don't seem to care about, there are a lot of things that a lot of people seem to really care about in their reading choices that I apparently simply do not. So one of them, and I think a very, very big one, is truly just anything about the writing style or even the mechanics of the writing. If people are mad about not having quotation marks or having no punctuation or no capital letters or whatever, I don't care. But even beyond that, the actual style of the writing, people will talk about things being overwritten or underwritten or anything, honestly anything. I guess I just don't there are books that I think that are written poorly, and there are books that I think that are written amazingly, and everything in between, but literally nothing happens in my brain when someone accuses a book of being written in any way that they didn't like. I don't know how to explain this, but it makes zero impact on me if anyone talks about the style of the writing or the mechanics of the writing for pretty much any book ever. Unless they say it's beautiful, and then I'm like, oh cool, I want to read that. Another one would be hating the characters, and this is somewhat genre dependent. Obviously, if I'm reading a romance or something like that, which I don't really do, but if I'm reading something where you're kind of meant to be primarily focused on the characters, rooting for the characters, that sort of thing, then yeah, I probably don't want to hate the characters. But pretty much anything else, to be honest, I'm okay with hating the characters, unless they're being presented as wonderful people and I think that they are not, then I can read a book where I hate the characters. That's fine. I don't find that difficult. Well, sometimes it's difficult because it's annoying, but it doesn't make me dislike a book automatically. This one is kind of specifically at genre fiction of a certain variety. So for thrillers, if they say they saw the plot twist coming, I don't really care necessarily. I think most of the time if the plot twist was the only interesting part of the book and you saw it coming, then that's a problem, obviously. But if the plot twist was the only interesting part of the book has a much bigger problem. So I have read and absolutely adored a ton of books where I saw the plot twist coming a mile away. One of them is behind me. This one. I saw this plot twist coming a million miles away. This is one of my absolute best books of last year. So I am not automatically put off when people say that they saw the plot twist coming, but also I'm not like, oh yay, I want to read that book. So it's just something I'm very neutral about. And similarly with lack of world building, which is normally a fantasy thing, this is something that I sometimes don't like, but not always. You know, some people read fantasy for the world building. Like they really, really want to experience an incredibly fleshed out world. I just saw someone criticizing The Priory of the Orange Tree for not having enough world building. I am currently in the middle of reading that, and I would never in a million years have thought that about that book, that it didn't have enough description, like physical description. Would never have crossed my mind. So when fantasy readers say that there was not enough world building or that there was not enough description of the magical system, I would need to know their taste really well to know whether that was going to be true for me, because I think I need a lot less description than a lot of fantasy readers, probably because I'm not primarily a fantasy reader, but I do enjoy it, but I just don't think I need quite as much as some people do, and honestly, I might get really frustrated with the amount that some people want. I'm not sure. So that one is one that I'm very neutral about as well. Okay, so on to the ones that make me specifically think I might like the book. I do have the boring Nothing Happens one as well. That one is definitely perks up my interest, again, if I am interested in the book for other reasons. A very big one for me is it was too weird, it was confusing, I had no idea what was happening. If someone's review starts with, I have no idea what I just read, that book basically immediately goes on to my list to read. Like, I just really like reading weird and confusing things, and it does not always work out for me, to be clear, but I like to try them. And so if someone says that a book was too weird or too confusing or it didn't explain things enough, I am definitely interested. And then a big one that comes back to kind of the discussion earlier is if someone says that something is really heavy-handed, it's really preachy, it like takes things too far, it's very obvious, that sort of thing, I'm definitely interested. And this would be specifically for things that I agree with or am interested in finding out more of. Like, I have accused a lot of more like classic books like Little Women of being preachy because they are morality tales, so I'm not really interested in that, but specifically the most recent one that this description has been very, very common of is Babel, that it was very, very heavy-handed, and yes, it is 100% extremely heavy-handed, and I loved it. And similarly, Tender as the Flesh is one that people talk all the time about how it went way too far, it's like, you know, banging you over the head with its message, blah, 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 and yes, it is. Yeah, although there was a lot of subtlety that I think people missed in that one, but another one that has had that said is The Word for World is Forest by Ursula K. Le Guin, and yes, all of these things are very, very heavy-handed, but I just don't care. Like, if an author has something to say it. Like, I go for it. Go crazy. I am all about it. And I tried to find this article that I read a long time ago, and I cannot for the life of me find it. But I remember reading an article. It was an interview with a sci-fi or fantasy author. I want to say it was N.K. Jemisin, but I don't know that for a fact. But they were talking about how she is frequently accused of being like heavy-handed or being overbearing in her messages. I don't even know if this was a she, to be honest, but the author that was being interviewed specifically said, like, no, that's BS, because we have had all of these, stories for so long that are fairly obvious allegories for things, specifically, especially I think in science fiction, things like Star Trek and even Star Wars have a lot of very political messaging that can be swallowed so easily by people who have politics diametrically opposed to the message, because it's been, shrouded and layered in so many palatable layers, and they were like, no, like at this point, I just want it to be absolutely as blatant as possible, because I don't want it to give anyone like an out, So anyway, this turned into a whole other topic, but all that to say, I'm pretty sure I have yet to read a book whose premise I agreed with, who I was like, wow, you really were way too heavy-handed about this point, I just don't think that's happened to me yet, and most books that I see people say that about, I read the book and I'm like, yes, go for it, go crazy. So yeah, I think that is probably my biggest green flag, to be honest. But aside from that, certainly if a white reviewer says that something is racist towards white people, that's also a very green flag. Again, another thing that happened with Babbel. So again, I would love to hear your guys' in the comments, or if you make videos, to make a video about this topic. I'm sure that there are many others that I will think of immediately after I post this that I could not think of to include here, but I was reading through reviews to try to get ideas for this, and I was just getting angry because I was reading bad reviews of books that I like, and so I was just making myself mad. So we had to cut ourselves off there before I started ranting on any social media. So I will see you in the next video, and thank you for watching.